Hi everyone and welcome to Mom Your Own Way. I'm Lily Coco and today my very, very, very special friend is Alisha Foster, who is not only a very good friend of mine, she was also in my girl tribe as we raised our babies, but more so than anything, she was my number one guest. She was my very, 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 very first guest when this whole podcast got started. So let's revisit, let's see how she's doing. Her baby just turned 1 as well. So we're going to talk about that, see how much has changed into this first year, and just catch up on all of the good mom stuff. So let's get into it. Hello, my beautiful friend Alisha.
Hey!
You look so good.
Thanks. Tips and tricks from you helps. A little bit light shining and
Yeah. For anyone out there, we were just configuring Alicia's room, and we figured out that in front of the window is kind of the best light. So if you're taking any videos, pictures, highly recommend. It's the window light. Natural light's always going to be your best friend. And then I think we already talked before, but the fridge light is...
I never would have thought of that.
It's so, you know what I should try? We have one of those like freezers in our garage. I should see if that's like a different like
in the deep freezer. Hello, Lily Foster.
Yeah, coming to you live from the freezer.
Just fall in there. Just sit in there.
I'm here with the beef.
Hey, I've got all my breast milk in there, so we're pretty stocked up in there.
There you go. You know, actually, what I was going to talk to you about. So I don't have any stock milk. Our pediatrician, because when I asked her, I was like, oh, shouldn't I be like freezing it in the bags and all of this? She's like, no, you don't need to. You just like pull it out and feed. And I'm like, totally. And that makes sense. But now, because we're introducing the food, she's eating a little more. She's, sleeping a little more before this week. This week's been really rough. But she started to sleep a little more, so she's demanding less milk from me, and I know I'm decreasing. Like, I know I feel deflated. I know I have less milk, and so I've already started, like, not worrying, but kind of like, okay, what's the next step? Because then everyone's like, milk, give them milk. I'm not pro regular cow milk. I know the organic raw milk is probably all right, but we don't have that, like, nearby. Yeah, and so
We just got into the raw milk world. So we're like, it's like an hour and a half drive, and it's like...
You just made butter with the raw milk, too.
I did. It was like a lot of effort for, a little thing, but it was like, let's just see. I want to be able to say I've made butter.
Yeah.
And next step is ice cream, so we'll see how that goes.
That's going to be delicious. So because you've explained to me how you made that butter, I've started just drinking coconut milk, which also separates. And Jake was trying to make me a coffee yesterday, and he's like, I just put this stuff and it's clunky. Why is that? Why do you drink that? And I was like, oh, you're supposed to mix it. It separates. I was like, that's how you would make butter, is it would separate. And I gave a little butter lesson, but I knew it from you.
I need to look into if that's how you would do that with coconut milk. I didn't know that was possible. That could be very flavorful, though.
Yeah, that could be delicious. You could do that for ice cream as well.
So back to the breast milk, though. So you
Yes.
were saying, what are your next steps with her?
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know the answer. I've seen goat milk. I've seen no milk, which is kind of more what I'm leaning towards. I'm not loving... She's already allergic to dairy, so I'm like, why am I going to shove a bottle of it down?
Yeah. If she doesn't take it well, she doesn't need it, is what my pediatrician had told me. She was like...
That's what I heard, too.
Another animal's milk is not needed. Yes, breast milk or formula is needed in that first year. But our babies are past that first year now, and like, it's weird to think of it like that. I'm still, We've got a cup with a straw that she like loves drinking out of. And so I put my frozen breast milk in there because it's coming around to the year. And I'm like, I don't want this just to go bad. And I have bags and bags from when I thought I was going to need it. And then I didn't use it all. So she's drinking. I'm not drinking.
Yeah, that's your coffee. That's what I should be adding to my coffee.
She's drinking that with her meal. But once that runs out, we'll probably just go back to water. She really enjoys water. And
what about sleep? This is my thing, because she nurses to sleep, and then and a lot of people use the bottle still for helping them go to sleep. So I'm like, what am I going to put in that bottle?
Oh, I'm in the same boat I'm even just thinking, like, I know you talked the other day with the mom about when nursing ends, and I'm like, I don't want to think about it yet, but am wondering too, and from what I hear, it's like you just transition to the next thing. And a lot of moms say that you begin to add in different accommodations while they're sleeping, whether that's like rubbing their head or patting their back or their stuffed animal or whatever it may be while you're nursing. And then whenever you stop nursing, it's like there's that other thing that you also love, and you kind of just transition to that. So we're trying, but I'm sad. I don't want that moment to be gone.
Yeah, I'm not ready for the moment, and I'm just nervous because I guess I'm just so reliant on the milk. Like, I just know it works and it helps her go to sleep. Although, so she never took a pacifier, but we have one of those kind of like a pacifier with like a lamb on it, and she loves lamb bot. And so she sometimes will scratch my nip because she's just bored. So she's just like playing with it and just like, yeah, it's so. So sometimes I'll like substitute it, and then she'll play with that instead. So I'm wondering if that's going to be my go-to.
Yeah, that's what I hear. You just find different things, and it's the same, whenever they're a certain age and they have stuffed animals, and then it's like they start transitioning out of that too, and it's like you just kind of adapt and change to what they need. But right now I'm like, nursing still works for us. I didn't think we would be nursing this long. I was that mom that was like on day 4, it was like rough, and I was like, I don't know if I'll make it, I'm done. And then here we are 13 months, and I'm like, I don't know when we're gonna end. I definitely am not more so that mom that's like, oh, just whenever it happens. Like, if there is a certain point in time when I'm like, okay, I feel like we're at a certain line, then I might start trying to wean her.
Yeah.
I would look for it to happen naturally, but I don't know. She's a boob lover right now, so I don't really see it happening naturally right now.
Yeah, I don't see it either. But when I talked to Amanda, that's the podcast you referred to earlier, I liked the way it happened for her, where she was like, oh, at one point he just didn't need it anymore. And it seemed like I would feel better about that instead of saying no to, where it's like, oh, she doesn't want it. Although I know I'm going to be sad and I'm going to feel rejected because I'm like, what? You don't need me anymore? What's wrong with you? Why aren't you my best friend? Like, of course she is, but I'm going to get emotional.
Where your friend said it was like she suddenly was enjoying just being held instead of having to be fed. And like, I've heard that from moms where it's like, you don't feel maybe used in the same way, and it's a different bond than that you establish with them. So they adjust, we adjust too, and then it's like, all right, let's have another one so we can do all this again.
That's usually what happens. That's what I was thinking about in the regards of transitioning. If we're talking about transitioning out of nursing, like all along, that's kind of what we did, was transition, from their newborn stage where you're like, oh my gosh, when will this end? And it just kind of ends, like one day it just kind of stops and you're like, oh, now you're crawling, now you're walking, now she's running. She says, run, run, run. I'm like, what? When? I can't even catch her. Yeah, I was about to remove all the like pillows we kind of have around because she was bumping into things. So I'm like, oh, it's time to move him. She's walking. And now she's running. I'm like, put him back. Put everything. Yeah. They're so fast. But I don't
how these legs work now. I'm running with them, and yeah.
And it happened so quickly. Before we hopped on, we were talking about comparing it, from the newborn stage to where they are now. And it's so weird because you see them as they are today, and you're like, this is you as I've always known you. And the only reminder is when you have a conversation that reminds you of like, oh my gosh, yeah, those first weeks back, or the pictures when you see me, you're like, when were you a potato? Like, you don't even look like you. That's a different baby. But I know a lot have happened, and it just resolved itself. What is that?
I know. We're in the same boat. Matt's like, he looks back at certain pictures and he's like, who is that? And he's like, were we around for that stage? I'm like, I don't think so. We were just like mentally surviving, but
yeah,
we have pictures of her just looking totally different. And it's like so odd and funny how, like you said, you see them how they are now, and that's how you feel they've always been. But
yeah.
Seeing them, I think, like every single day, you don't notice change sometimes when it's happening. My mother-in-law will see her and be like, oh, her face has changed. And I'm like, really? Like since last week? I don't, I know it's happening, but I don't see exactly when it's happening.
I think it'd be a lot easier if you are away a little. Although there are moments where I'm like, usually like after a nap where I'll just look at her, I'm like, you grew. You just grew. Like you just are more like, or like she'll say something and you hear that pronunciation a little better and you're like, you're saying it. Like you're
Yeah.
It's happening. And now she's running, and I'm just like, I don't know. Let's go get your keys for your car. No, it's happening.
Funny too in the beginning, and I know we were like you said, like in the same mom tribe, our girl mama gang. That we let's unite and figure out how to survive. And it was like you're just looking at the next month and the next month, and what are we looking forward to next and next, and then all of a sudden a year happens, and you're like, oh, that year is gone. And Matt, my husband, was like, we only have 17 more of those. And I was like, do not say that. That breaks my heart, because that year went by pretty fast. Like,
yeah,
in the grand scheme of things, they say the nights are long, the years are short.
Couldn't be more true. Yeah. It's silly. What they have an app for it. It's a Wonder Weeks of Wonder.
Yeah.
I got that book, and from it I ripped a page because it broke down the milestone, struggling, challenging weeks. And I was at a point where I was highlighting them, and I was letting my husband know, like, hey, we're coming up on, week 17. It's got a little lightning bolt over it, so it might be a little stress, whatever it might be. And so I was counting down the weeks, and there were so many days and nights where I'm just like, I don't think this is ever ending. I think I'm just never gonna... I don't think I'm ever going to get sleep. I don't think I'm ever going to... You know what I was thinking about the other day? It was actually last night. And this is more of a negative thought, but I will share it with you. But when I got into the motherhood, I kind of stopped doing almost anything on my terms. Mm-hmm. And... I don't, whatever. Thoughts come, thoughts go, but this is just the thought that I had, so I'll share it. But
okay, share it. Get it out, girl. I have a quick comment on how it's hilarious how you got into the motherhood as if it's like that we're getting in. We are in the motherhood now.
We are in the motherhood right now. Thank you for entering. Yes. And so when you enter the motherhood, this cave of wonder as it is, you just stop doing things on your terms, and it's more so because you love your child so much, you put them first, and so their needs are always going to be met first. You're always going to do what's most important for them, and so sometimes, when she goes to sleep, she still needs a little nursing every 15, 20 minutes for about 2 hours, and then she sleeps through. But even if I'm hungry, I'm like, oh, I don't want to go downstairs, because if she wakes up and I'm not there, then... she's going to wake up, it's going to be longer, and I'd rather not eat right now, but make sure she's getting good sleep. Same goes for when I have to go to the bathroom. Same goes to if I have to get work done, but I'm like, I don't want to have my phone out because I want to make sure she doesn't see me on my phone all the time. When it comes to just getting time to yourself, because I was so used to doing things on my terms, on my time, when it comes to work, hobbies, anything, and then it becomes not on your terms. Everything is on the baby's terms. And it's not, I know I said it's kind of like a negative thing. It's more of like, I guess an admirable thing, because it becomes a selfless role.
Very selfless, yeah. And not all people are like that, I will say. I think there's a good balance. I think selflessness is definitely needed.
Sorry, I got a chunk of that coconut milk. So I'm like drinking chunks of coconut milk like I'm drinking butter. So that's where I'm up to.
That's great.
Not on my terms. Not on my terms.
It's a good balance of needing to figure out. And I think just like life, it's like you go through seasons where you're like, whoa, I haven't made any time for myself. Or like, oh, I've been a little more selfish lately. Like, it's the ebbs and flow of life. But finding that balance of like, yeah, being a good mother is giving of yourself a lot of the time. But in order to be a good mother, you have to make sure that you're fueled. How are you going to nurse a baby if you aren't fed and you don't have that nutrition?
Yeah.
I hit that sometimes too, where I'm like, oh, I just nursed her and I am starving. Like, I need to go eat.
So hungry, yeah.
All of my nutrients, I need to go eat so I can refuel, And
yeah.
Or like my fuse is a little shorter if she hasn't been sleeping, and my mother-in-law or my parents are offering to watch her, and I'm like, no, it's fine. We just need to hang out. And then I'm like, no, I need to go take care of myself for a minute. I need to go get my hair done, or go just sit out back and read a book and just have a minute where I'm not thinking and breathing and talking about baby 24/7. So I think it's okay to have that like balance,
I think I need to do that, because what I've really haven't done is like, I was just tired. So this is where all these thoughts are coming from. But I was like, I haven't eaten in peace in this year and a half. I'm always fast eating, and it's fast hot food because I need to get it done before something starts. And I haven't gone to the bathroom by myself. And then now she wants to get out of the bathroom, so now she's crying. And then I'm like, these last few days, I'm like, I gotta wipe, like give me a second. Yeah. And then I haven't gotten my hair done or my nails done. I haven't been out. I haven't been driving for 2 years to listen to my even own like music, just to like blast the music that you want at your own volume with the window down or not, or like window down but the heater blasting, like whatever. Like let me just do my own temperature. And so, and I understand that I want to put all this time into my child. And so then in the other side is what comes is that I don't do anything on my terms. But I just think I'm just constantly running. Like, and if somebody is watching her, I'm like doing a podcast, or I'm working, or I'm finally doing this, or I can finally catch up and do this. And it's like, I'm constantly going. And then I finally lay down and I'm like, I still have so much more to do, but I have to go to sleep because she's going to be up. And now this week at 3:30.
Cycle of the next day and you do it all over again.
Yeah. And so I think I'm just like,
needs a break. And that's okay.
But then I also have anxiety because I'm like, I want to just go get my hair done. And I'm like.
And then you calculate how long that is.
Yes! That's all I've been doing is calculating that time. And I'm like, I haven't been away for more than an hour because then usually something happens. She needs me, especially right now when there's this change. Like, and I want to make sure I am there. Plus, I found this thing of, so I was reading, and kids, so they throw tantrums when their goals aren't met, and they have to express their needs. And so that's the way of doing it. But that way of rationalizing those thoughts and feelings doesn't come until like age of 7, 8, and then not fully until like age of 25. But research has shown that the kids who are raised in a very calm environment, very like responding to their needs and being very respectful, where they have the time to actually process it a little bit better, they have that understanding a lot earlier. And so it's yeah, because I was like, okay, well, like we gave her like an open cup to drink from, and I always think like, okay, give it whatever you give to them early. If you give them food to them early, they'll get used to it earlier, and they'll learn to eat it earlier. And so this is similar of like, oh, if you give them the opportunity to learn their thoughts and feelings and how to express them earlier in a safe place, then they'll know how to do it. So like, although it might be hard right now, the time I'm putting in now and you and others, it will pay off a lot sooner because they'll be ready to like.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 parts to that.
Yeah, hit me.
One part is I still think that while you can be an amazing, attached, 100% gentle mother who is totally providing for your child's needs, you still need time for yourself occasionally.
I agree.
Take that, mama, because you're going to run low on fuel eventually. At some point, it could, be like, well, now I'm short patience with this, or now I'm fed up with this, or now I'm having to work on my marriage because I'm having a short temper with him and it's not his fault, and
yeah,
I think you do need to take those times for yourself. But
how do you find that time? Well, let's go into the second point because I want to make sure we don't forget.
You do need to get back to this though, and I wish we lived close because I'd be like, I'm coming over and I'm taking Paisley whether you like it or not, and you're going to get your hair done. But
yeah, I
come to Tennessee for that,
Yeah. Although you guys do need to come visit. But I really struggle because I have all these ideas. I'm like, oh, I really want to do this and I really want to do that. And then when it almost kind of comes time to follow through, it just happens that she doesn't sleep that day. And so then we have to, there's something that kind of occurs. And then because of the experience with it, I'm almost like, I just don't even want to try because what experience has shown is that something's going to happen. And I feel like God's like, okay, just give your time right now to this baby because I have made you you're in charge right now. So before you give this baby to me and I am in charge of her as a grown-up, you need to put, I don't know. This is just my thoughts.
My thought on what you just said is I think God also made it to where partnership is necessary. And there's a strong balance between most of the time man and wife in the household, or a village of other women to be able to support you and help you for those times. And I
Yeah.
think that if you're able to have that, support, that you have to lean in on it whenever you have it there, because not everyone does have that. And that's where it's like, you really don't get a minute. But if you do have that, take it and let her build those attachments a little bit with those other people as well too. That's something I struggled with. I was like, no, I am the person she is attached to. But then it's like, my husband also wants to have, an attachment in a relationship. So I need to step back and say, okay, you are doing this. And I'm tutoring now. I think I told you that 2 nights a week, and it's just an hour, but it's time that they get together without me. And that's not really break time because mama's going to work, but it's time that they're building that relationship, and so it is, I think, it is possible. It's just, I think sometimes it's on ourselves. We go like extreme of, we don't want them to not have that attachment with us. And so we want to make sure it's strong.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, we've talked a couple times about our trauma, and that being sometimes when you come from one end of the spectrum, you want to make sure that your child doesn't have that. And so then you go so extreme to the other end sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just being able to balance that and go, they're still attached to me. I'm still their person.
Yeah.
So I got to find time for me too,
I think I just need to be more specific about it, or maybe more vocal, because not usually, but sometimes I feel like when I do take that time to like prepare a meal or do something, then like I just see my husband and her circling, like they're just circling, waiting for me to be finished. So then I'm like already hurrying, like I'm almost done, like I will be right there to help you, just give me a second. And then it like becomes that where I'm like, I know that I'm being waited for.
Sometimes you got to get out of the house, because I have that same feeling of, I love my husband. He's such a great, like, hands-on dad, as is Jake. But it's like, it is that, like, hi, the child's still, she's climbing up the back of my leg right now, and I'm trying to cook. And
yeah.
He's like, oh, I didn't know if you were involving her in cooking, or if you want. I was like, I kind of wanted a minute, And then, so they'll go out back and then chase chickens and do that kind of stuff when I'm like, okay, or I got to get out of the house, because if I'm there, she's going to be clinging to me, because that's what, happens.
I think that's the thing, because I'm always just here and I'm available. And I make sure I tell everyone that I am available, because I want to make sure that she knows that if she does need me, I am here. But then it's just sometimes where I'm like, man, I can't escape to cook eggs for 7 minutes without, because then he'll bring her down, and then now I'm entertaining her again while cooking, and then it's like.
But like you said, maybe this is just a temporary stage of enjoying it and being blessed with it, because suddenly they're going to be teenagers, and we're going to be like, come on, do you want to cook with us? And do you want to hang out? And they're going to be like,
yeah,
it's cool for you now,
Yeah, and that's the thing. I guess that's my like biggest fear of it all, is that I want to make sure that I don't miss any of these things. And it's these thoughts usually come up when I'm tired. So this is, just me going through my tired thing. But I even have a reminder that I have going on every single day at 2:00 that says replace have with get. Like, instead of, I don't have to watch her all day every day, I get to watch her all day every day. It's not a chore. It's not something that's an inconvenience for me. Like, this is my honor, and something that I'm humbled to do I get to, like, 'cause she is the coolest person ever. I just, sometimes it takes a toll when you're taking care of somebody 24/7.
Yeah.
But I guess soon we'll be like putting her in her own bed, and so then I won't be with her all night, and then she'll start doing activities during the day, so I won't be with her all day. And so those things are about to come and start changing. I think I'm just lacking my sleep this week.
You're in a vulnerable state right now because of the lack of sleep, waking up early, and like you said, being on all night long as well as all day long is exhausting.
Yeah.
Like I get that, where you're like, it's a lot of times solely you, because that's who they want in that time. And so it is exhausting. I get it. And feeling that's totally normal. I think you're doing great, of course, but just, if you can, try to say, you know what, I need to put on my calendar this month one day when I get 2 hours to myself.
Yeah.
Away. Truly just away. Even like, I don't know if there's a nearby coffee shop or a place you could go walk through a trail and just pop some earpods in. Like, So where you're not working, you're not thinking about her milestones or how your next podcast can go, but really just like listen to a book. And sometimes that helps me escape in the daily stuff. I'll be like, you know what, I'm cooking, but I have an AirPod in and I'm listening to something that has nothing to do with being mom for a minute, because you're also Lily, you know, and she's got to see that side of you. And it's a struggle. I get it, especially on those tired nights, man. That's just part of my life now. I'm like, I didn't know I could live on such little sleep. All right.
And you just learn. It's such a trippy trip, the whole motherhood thing. Like it's literally the best thing. It's the best part of my life. It's like every single day I look at her and I'm so amazed. I'm like, you are so smart and you're so beautiful and your heart is so big. Like, how could you be a real person? Like, it is unbelievable. I just love her so much.
Yeah.
And it's just the lack of sleep will get you. But I do need to prioritize myself a little bit. You know where I also fall is because I have so many things going on and my brain is so ADHD and I have 47 projects going at one time, that when I even think about, let's say, taking 15 minutes to just sit in the shower and sip my coffee, I feel guilty because I'm like, in that 15 minutes, I could have done this, that, and the other. And so then I feel unproductive. And so I'm like, okay, so then I didn't spend time with my daughter, nor did I get anything accomplished. And I just feel like such a failure. And I want to scream at myself.
That time as your task that you're doing while resting is recharging. Like that isn't, you checked something off your list because you need it. It's needed, you know? But you are. Next project, I've got this. I'm utterly inspired by how much you can take on. Because I'm like, I don't have the time. And then I'm like, what am I saying? Like, we are in the same boat and you're doing 5 million things more than me. I don't know how.
Don't be inspired. I'm literally talking about how I'm almost burnt out. That is not where you want to be, girlfriend.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I got to get back to my second point.
Yes.
Before I forget it.
Yes.
Okay, so you were talking about getting to that developmental stage in your mind of being able to reason and being able to think with understanding. And a lot of times, like, maturity doesn't happen until 25. And I think for males, it's actually later too.
Yeah.
And so it made me think of, you were saying that kind of right now you're, wanting to make sure that you're fostering that and making sure that she is getting that full attention from you so that she can reason at the appropriate time, if not sooner, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with that because it's very sad to me to have seen a lot of kiddos who didn't have that attention early on. I know I've told you before, I was a teacher in a Title I school, and a lot of those babies did not have that bond with their person or the nurturing that they, just needed, even basically. Yeah. And you see 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds who you really cannot reason with because that kind of has been severed. So it is important to build that because it is, it is something that is needed in those ages. But you think of adults too, who 25 and older even, or in our early 20s, that are struggling with those, being able to think with, I'm doing this to fulfill this purpose, or I can't do this because of this valid reason.
Yeah.
A lot of times those things don't connect for people because maybe somewhere along their childhood, something was severed with
me. I'm that example because now as an adult, I can't reason within my own mind as to why I can't just enjoy a shower without also editing a video at the same time to make sure it renders by the time I'm done, so then I can get the project,
Yeah.
Which totally makes sense. And I was going to snowball off of that. I think it's a good point to talk about the effect of it in adults, because we talk about how kids have tantrums all the time and they're easier to spot because it's like the tears, the crying, the squealing, the whining that may come along. I mean, it's pretty easy to recognize, but it is so common. I mean, I've seen a lot of adults who, and I've probably thrown my own tantrums, I'll be honest. But, they come out in a different way. But I like what you mentioned, where you can't really reason with them. It's kind of like you get stuck with an idea. And so you see a lot of it now online where people will kind of like
say, yeah, people can let it out there, man.
Yeah. And so that's their like online tantrum. And they're like, no, I am right. And I said this and this is why. And you can't reason with them. You can't.
No, you can't. And something that has helped me with just either like separating from people like that or just trying to reason with them is I see everybody kind of in a sense of like, what happened to you when you were a child? Like let's look back and probably think, and I'm not like sitting down and like, I'm going to be your shrink and let's talk about what's happened. But in my own mind, I'm playing that and I'm going, oh, that poor baby, they are X, Y, and Z now as an adult. And that's most likely because of something that they went through. And so just seeing it kind of more in a sense of it wasn't really their fault. And that doesn't excuse adults,
No.
So you do have to deal with your trauma and say, hey, I've made these poor choices. I don't want to be like that anymore. So I need to be better.
Mm-hmm.
But it just kind of helps you take the weight off of yourself of trying to convince somebody of something or reason with them when you're going, but they were just a hurt little baby along.
Yeah. And you can almost like spot it because the way they would react towards something or respond, you're like, wow, you are acting like I'm your mom who took your toy away from you and put you in a timeout because that's probably what happened. So you didn't get enough attention. You're still craving it. So now you're lashing out on other people because you never dealt with this one event. And now every event is like that repeating itself because technically God is putting it in front of you for you to learn your lesson. Mm-hmm. But when you're stuck in that stage and you keep repeating that stuff when you don't know how to reason because that you didn't have time or the opportunity to develop it, when people tell you you're not being reasonable, you can't even see it. You're like, no, I'm right. I'm being reasonable.
Well, and even beyond the like reasoning aspect, I think like certain behaviors of greed or jealousy or people who are just like making choices in life that's like, is that really, who you're wanting to be? And then you kind of look back at certain things and you're like, oh, you maybe grew up without any money and you feel you really need to have money to be successful or whatever, or like I think of, and now I see it so different as like a 30-year-old mom, but I think of like young girls in high school that were really promiscuous or certain things. And at that time you're like, oh, this girl, and you have your not so nice names that you may hear or say, but then you look at it now as an adult and you were like, you were just
poor baby,
with somebody probably. And a lot of times they say, oh, that comes with daddy issues or mommy issues. And it's like, well, yeah, because they didn't have that attachment to a person and they're now trying to fill that void with anybody that will love them, and so like you kind of just see it different and seeing it where it's, I don't know, just seeing people as the kid that they were once upon a time and they were somebody's baby and what happened, what went wrong and what can be done now, to be better and not carry that trauma into the next generation because that's where it's hard to.
Yeah. I think it's almost like you said, what happened to you as a kid, but it's also almost like when something like that happens, that part stops growing. And so if it's like a jealousy thing or a success thing or a money thing, wherever that, I talk about, I think you've probably heard of it, like the trust plate, if you break the plate, put it back together, it's not the same. So if all of these different things are plates, let's say the attachment plate gets broken, the love plate gets broken, at whatever age that plate is broken, you can put it back together, but it's not the same. And you kind of get stuck at that maturity. So if something happened at 5 with your attachment to your mom or something, then you get stuck at the 5-year-old age with that concept almost. And then if something happens when you're 16, it like stops maturing and growing because you kind of block it because you're like, nope, this is it. And you just,
I mean, the plate thing is such a great like metaphor and visual just to be able to see. I think so many people look at this broken, shattered plate that they've, super glued together and it's a mess and they're mad about it and it's got jagged edges, and they see themselves as that. I was that someone, you know, like I saw it and it was just like, oh, I can never be better than this broken plate of mess. And I'm going with your metaphor, but
no, yeah, it's good.
The only thing for me that I suddenly was like, just life changed and I was able to make better choices is I realized that I didn't have to be that plate. God's grace said, hey girl, come over to this store and here's a brand new plate. This is how I've seen you from the beginning. This is who you are. It's perfect. It's beautiful. You don't have to see yourself like that. Like you are what I have always wanted you to be. You just see it in yourself, you know, and it's kind of silly with the plate.
No, it's beautiful.
It's in my mind, and
that's beautiful.
God's grace is the ultimate super glue, and like it'll literally just like wipe it off, and it's a brand new plate.
She's the Williams-Sonoma of plates.
Yeah.
I want to see myself through God's eyes. I see myself as a broken plate, yet I tell everyone else to see themselves through God's eyes, because obviously they were made in the perfect image. And, you know, I'm trying to make sure that I treat myself kindly and say nice things to myself, because I want to make sure my daughter sees my self-talk in a very positive way, because I want her to have positive self-talk as well instead of beating herself up. And so I try to remember, like, okay, well, what would be the advice that I'd give my daughter? Because of course I'd give her the most loving, best advice. So what would be the advice I'd give her? I should take that advice, or what, you know. And that's when I take the time to think about stuff. But if not, sometimes I'll sit there and I'll beat myself up. And I'm like, I'm this broken dang plate. And now I've got duct tape on me now. So great. That doesn't even match this other side of my plate. And this other piece is from a blue plate that I just attached. Now I'm a different color plate. And no one's going to eat off of me.
Oh, this plate metaphor. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
It's hard, and that's for me what saved me in my life, and like from my early 20s to now where I'm at, is realizing that I will never be able to fix that plate. The only thing that fixes that plate is God's grace and knowing it is enough. No matter how far you've gone off the deep end, no matter how broken your plate is, if you lost your dang plate, it's not too late. Like God's grace, it covers everything, and that just, for me, that helped me kind of wipe clean of my, you know, trauma and my sins of my past stuff, and just going, hey, I can be whatever beautiful plate God wanted me to be. And somebody's going to tune in right now and be like, what are these women talking about plates for? Like,
why are we talking about plates?
It's too long.
We're like in tears about plates. We're like,
beautiful plate I've ever seen.
Yeah. Man, what's that flying saucer?
Yeah.
In Texas, they have plates all over.
You know, we used to go there with Taylor all the time. That's like our place. I think we met there. No. Was it there? I don't know.
He definitely took me there. I think we ended up on the roof of that place. I have a video of him standing over the ledge, and he was actually calling Jake, and he said, do you know where Lily is? And he's like, you're with Lily in Texas right now. And Taylor was like, what? And the look.
Roofs and bridges,
yeah.
Houses that were half built that me, Taylor, and Matt have hung out in is just, those are some of my favorite memories. So that's so great. I love that.
Man, that kiddo's birthday's coming up.
Yeah.
Rough. He was a beautiful plate.
He is a beautiful plate. Oh my gosh. And look at the impact that he's made. He's brought us together. Yeah. And
that's what I was going to mention. Something you talked about earlier, I forgot. But the fact that now we both have like our 1-year-olds and we're really close. We've talked on this podcast. We talk, you know, weekly, if not daily sometimes. But when we started, I think Savannah told me you were having a baby, and I might have sent you a message on Instagram, maybe a DM, so very impersonal. Like, I didn't even know you. Like, I knew you, but, like, not know you. You know what I mean? Like, still kind of strangers. And look where we're at now. Like, how much has happened in a year. So we talk about, like, how much our babies are changing.
Yeah,
but,
so...
like,
it's wild to even think about that time because, like we've talked about, it was just like survival. But that was pretty cool, and I recommend that for all moms. Is like find a village of like-minded people that will have your back. And even if there's things that are not like-minded, they'll have your back, and you'll be able just to like talk at 3 a.m. with another mom who's
so much. Yeah.
That's wild, and it's lonely being awake every 2 hours to feed your baby, and you're hormonal. And looking back, I think I probably had some sort of postpartum anxiety, and I was just a hormonal mess. But like, you and Savannah were my girl mama gang, and I leaned in hard on girls that I went to birth class together with too. And like, it's funny, we met and we weren't all like cool with each other. We were just like cordial. And then when you're in that vulnerable state of, you know, postpartum time, you just kind of lean in on people, and they can. You
just start sending pictures of dirty diapers, like, yo, what's this? Do you guys have that? What is that?
Like, hi, I know we haven't met in person, but here's a picture of my nipple. Do you think it's okay? Like, my baby's not attaching. Would you attach to this? What's going on? I don't know.
Can you FaceTime me while we go through? So I remember one time specifically, it was like 3 or 4 weeks after Paisley was born. No, maybe a little bit later. I don't remember anymore. But I had a clogged duct, and I was like, what is going on? Then finally, I unclogged it. Like, we worked through it, and then I took another shower. And then I saw, like, a little piece come out, and it just started, like, water fountaining out. And it was so much. It was the biggest thing I've ever seen. It was just like... And my phone was away, but all I wanted to do was take a video for you and Savannah. And I was like, it's going to be so weird if I send him this video of my boob being a fountain of milk. But it just got... Yeah. It was very early on because I was still trying to get my supply up. I was trying to do the whole thing. I didn't know, you know, it's just like all of it. It was like just pouring out. I felt like I was losing the gold, but I could, like, it was just so funny.
Like, Christine, grab the camera. I got to send this to the girls. They'll be so proud of me.
He's watching them. I'm like, drop the baby. Come on. You got to see this. We even talked about it later. I was like, you should have brought her in. We just like popped her on and just had her drink it or something. I didn't want to waste it.
Isn't that crazy? Okay, speaking of the early days of breastfeeding, I love that you started sharing like tips online of breastfeeding and what's worked for you and what you've heard, because it's so like, it's wild how it's the most natural thing, but it doesn't come naturally sometimes. Like,
yeah,
it's hard. And
I mean, I struggled.
And here we are going strong. But
now I'm like, everyone should do it. It'll become so easy. It's free. Like, there's so many, just, you don't have to pack the bottles.
You know, I definitely have had friends who are like, I physically could not, and I mentally could not, or whatever the reasoning may be. It's like, that's totally understandable. Like, you have to be in the right place mentally in order to be able to, you know, be okay with sacrificing that time as well, because it is it's a full-time job. But physically, I felt like I couldn't do it, and I thought that, like, some reason, a nurse told me that popped in the hospital. She was like, oh, yeah, and this is just great that this is going to be on a podcast, but she was like, that nipple right there is a little flatter than the other one. And it's not, first of all, to anybody.
Ma'am, this is a Wendy's.
But it got in my head, and I was just like, this one is incompetent. It cannot do it. And I was afraid to get her on that side. I suddenly was not comfortable with her on that side. I couldn't do it on that side. And I was so in my mind with it.
Yeah.
And I had to have a lactation consultant come to the house. And she like briefly helped me talking to other moms, just like researching a ton and watching videos. And then now that side is like my MVP. That's like,
wow.
You know, it's just weird how we can really get in our mind. And I thought at the time that I physically was not going to be able to do it. And here we are. And it just took a lot of effort and overcoming. And I get sometimes like you can't make milk come out of where it's not coming out of. I totally understand that. So I'm not saying there's any lack of effort on people's parts if they're unable to do it. But just understanding that there are going to possibly be some physical challenges does get better, and just like put in the, you know, reach out to people. Me and you are here. Even if we're strangers, like reach out. We'll give some tips. We'll try to help if we can. Call a lactation consultant. But
yeah. What inspired that post was something I saw online in one of the mom groups, if I'm not mistaken. But this mom was like, her post, it seemed like she was coming to the end. She's like, I'm really struggling. She's like, I want to continue, but I'm running out of options. And people are commenting. She's like, no, I've tried this and I've tried that and I've tried this. And some of the things that I ended up posting, she didn't try. So I don't know, maybe somehow she'll see it. But it made me think of like, man, I wonder how, because that's kind of how I felt, where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do, And so it's like, I wanted to make sure I wasn't pushing like, hey, everyone needs to breastfeed, like everyone needs to do this. It was more of like, if you want to, but you are struggling, maybe this will help. Yeah. Because that's, like you said, that's where we were, where it's like, I'm just looking for that one tip that will turn it for me.
Yeah. And I don't even know what it was that turned it for me. It just, suddenly it just worked. And something that someone did tell me that made sense is they are 3 days old or 4 days old, and they are trying to learn their body too. Like understanding all the weight is not on you. It's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's that they're trying to figure out their little mouth too. My baby had a tongue tie and a lip tie. Supposedly I had a flat nipple. I don't know.
I'm sorry you were told that. I'm sorry.
I'm so sad that this is live and everyone's hearing that. But okay, anyway. But it's just understanding that it's a 2-partner dance, and you need to like give yourself grace and understand that your baby's trying to figure it out too. And sometimes it just suddenly happens, and sometimes you need extra support, and sometimes it's not gonna be the right route for you, and that's okay. But I think it's totally good to just give out the tips. I don't think it pushes it to make anybody feel negative if they chose to not go that route. I think it's just, the more knowledge we have on stuff, the better we're going to be. And so, like, share the knowledge, share the wealth.
I agree. There's like a TikTok battle going on right now. I don't know if you've witnessed it in the mom. You'll get into the mom space. There's things that happen.
I barely have time to like post my things. I do not have time yet to look at other people's, but I really want to. I'm like,
it's a whole culture. I learned half of my hacks from there. I learned so many tips from there. There's pediatricians. All sorts of doctors are on there. There's so much of like speech therapists. It's really, really cool. But sometimes there'll be like a trend of some sort that catches on. And so currently, and maybe this is now a week old, maybe I'm behind the times. TikTok moves so fast. It's unbelievable. But so this girl posted a video and she's like, breast is best or something. And then somebody had replied to the video that had also gone viral, and they said, no, fed is best. And I was like, what is FED? Because I didn't know what that meant. Because I was like, what are you guys talking about?
Is this?
I was like, some sort of federal department. That can't be right. I was like, you want the government? Like, I was so lost. So then I was like, FED is best. I was like, I don't know what this battle is about. And I kind of left it. And then I came back and there's been more videos. And so people were replying, stitching, duetting, whatever. And so the argument was, this girl was saying, breast is best. So breastfeeding and the nutrients that you get. And someone was like, no, fed is best. And then I figured out, because this is why it took me so long. They were saying fed, like as in, as long as your baby is fed, that is best. Yeah. And to me, what didn't make sense is like, what's the argument? You're comparing apples and oranges here, because we're not arguing hungry or full. Okay, so let's talk about what we're eating. If you're arguing vegetables or chips, vegetables are going to be better. But if you're talking about eating or not eating, eating is going to be better. But they're two separate arguments. But everyone's now breast is best or fed is best. I'm like,
but this is a TikTok thing now, because this is old school, girl. This is stuff people have been arguing about for decades, and it's like, let's stop this argument and let's.
But the argument doesn't make sense to me, because I'm just like.
And I think what's sad is that people take offense to things because they truly are hurt by it, and people don't see that. And whenever they're saying something, it hurts somebody, and so that's why they're rebuttaling with something that is an argument that is going to go against you. It's because you hurt them on how, you know, they did everything they could and they need to feed their baby. And now your comment of breast is best is offensive because they feel by that comment. I struggle with that comment because it's like, well, yes, I'm very glad I'm able to breastfeed. And I think that my baby is getting a lot of great nutrients. And I'm very happy that we were able to go this route. But by inferring that it's best makes people who can't do that feel as if they are not doing the best for their child. And nobody should ever have to feel like that. Like, that's just wrong to make people feel like that. And
I totally understand that, but to me, I thought it was like a hashtag that, you know, like people are like, Florida is best. It's like, bro, we're not saying that the rest of the states are shitty just because this one sticker says Florida is best. It's like somebody could just say that. It doesn't mean the rest of the U.S. has to get offended, nor does it mean that Florida is actually best. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a saying.
It's just because it's the alliteration of the B's, people put them together, but it's like, I get what they're saying. They're saying breastfeeding is if you're having to choose between what is the ingredients in both, you know, what is going to help your baby's system.
Real milk or powdered milk.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But I just think people like get insensitive sometimes, and then it starts a whole, like you said, like a whole,
it's been a whole thing,
necessary, like, is best. Well, nobody said not feeding your baby is best.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, well, what's the argument? I want every baby to be fed. I want feed it everything. I'm not even saying breast is best. I just seeing what this like one video to another response to another has evolved. You know, these other people are now really getting into it, and they're like, I gotta say my opinion about this. Like, they are fighting, like they're going full war on this, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, feed your baby, just feed your baby, whatever it is, just feed your baby. Like,
it's sad.
When do we have time? When do we all have time for this? You're all our moms. Like, there's no chance you have time for this. No chance.
Is your baby fed right now while you're having time to do this back and forth? Because
yes.
First.
Yes. The whole time. What if they're like recording these videos and both of the parties, like kids are in the background, both hungry? It's like, just go feed your baby. Stop making TikToks.
Yeah. Like, let's stop cutting each other down and wasting time like with negativity.
Yeah.
Let's build each other up and let's support each other. And the only reason I told you, like, getting on all this social media stuff, I feel so old with it right now, by the way, because I'm like, Lily, how do I make this work? And you're like, the waffle in the corner.
No, it really is so complicated. I mean, I've said this so many times to you, but the user face on Facebook is awful. I mean, I don't even know what the heck they were thinking. Being the biggest, oldest social media platform, they've really dropped everything. I don't know what. I mean, they're just spending their money in metaverse, so whatever. But don't feel old. You're just getting into it, and you're doing amazing. That's another thing I was going to mention is, like, a year ago we were having babies not knowing what we're doing, and now, you know, we're doing the podcast. Your blog is incredible. The stuff that you're posting, everybody follow Fostering Mama Bears. I'll include the links in the description. But you're posting amazing stuff, and now that we've gone through all the stuff that we've gone through, like, we're able to hopefully help somebody out there, maybe just ourselves.
And you know, I told you, I was like, I struggled with if I even wanted to do it because I was like, I don't want people to look at me like, oh, what does she think? She knows it all now? And I'm like, no, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
I'm learning, and I wish, and there actually were. There were blogs out there. There were Instagram people that I followed. And there were people that I had in my life, but those people helped along the way with those questions for me. And I'm like, I just want to add to that pot of knowledge as I go along the way. And
as you should.
You can benefit from anything that I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
Like, I would love for that, you know, so that's.
Yeah. But it also gets tricky because I think a lot of times we compare ourselves to, like, our peers that we know. And so then it's like, oh, they were going to think that, am I the know-it-all? It's like, well, maybe your friend group also knows all this stuff that you know, but there are so many other people out there who might not have grown up in the same school, church, where any of this was part of the conversation, or the family unit where none of this was taught to them or passed on, or they don't know that there's blogs or anything, but somehow will find your stuff. So it's I mean, I struggle with it too, where I'm like, oh, my like friend group doesn't really care about this stuff, you know, and a lot of them aren't even parents yet. And so my stuff's probably super annoying to them. But like to the strangers is where I get a lot of response where they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing this. This has really changed my baby's diet, her sleep schedule, like so many different things. And I've said this to you before, but something that really helps me is either songs or hot sauce, where I'm like, there's so many songs about love, yet we always love a new artist because this is their take on it. This is their new way of saying it. And same with hot sauce. You're like, they can't make any more hot sauce. There's already 500,000. You don't need any more hot sauce. Then somebody makes another hot sauce and you're like, I'm so glad that you decided to say, hey, I'm still going to go for it. I'm going to make this hot sauce because I think mine's just a little different. Like it's not better or worse, or it's not that like, you know, our market isn't oversaturated. Yes, there's a lot of mommy bloggers, there's a lot of mom help, there's a lot of this and this, but there's also a lot of moms, and how we learn information is different. And so even if you send me the most helpful blogs podcast that helped you, it doesn't mean that I might learn from them the same thing that you will, because I learn a little different. And so, but whatever you take from it and then you write your own thing, maybe that'll help me understand. So you're helping me, you know, like it just...
different audiences, but all in the same umbrella of motherhood.
Yeah.
But there's so many different ways that people learn, like you said. Like, I at first was just like, I have all these books and I'm going to read these books and I'm going to look at articles on my phone, which were blogs, you know, but it's like, that was what helped me, where somebody else is like a visual quick learner and they're like, I need to be able to scroll and find exactly what I need. 3-second video, I got it, I'm good, you know? And so, yeah, I think it's cool to be able to, I love the comparison of the songs and the hot sauce. That was, when you told me that, because I was getting down on myself and I was like, I'm not going to do anything with this foster mama bears. Like, nobody wants to see my stuff. I'm annoying people. My best friends don't even support me. Like, they don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's just, you got to get away from the, at least for me, once I separated myself, that it's not for my friend group. It's for a different audience, honestly. Or another one is athletes, you know, it's like, oh, there's already so many basketball players. Why would you want to spend your time practicing? It's like, oh, because I also want to be a great basketball player and we want more athletes. Why wouldn't we want more athletes? So why wouldn't we want more information and more education and more tips or things that didn't work out? Things, you know, like I really loved your sleep blog because I talked about all the things you tried that worked, that didn't work. And so you kind of put all of the information that you had learned together into one. And so when somebody does find it, they're like, oh my gosh, you are now the summary of like 15 books that can help. Like but that's what you're doing. You're using your own voice as a songwriter does. And so they sing a different song. It might be similar story, but you love this song more because it resonates with you better. The lyrics, the flow, the thing, like it just connects with you more. So you're the athlete, the artist, the singer, the teacher, like you're the hot sauce. You're the song and the hot sauce.
Wait, and we have a date. This is going to be amazing.
Yes.
You, ma'am, are one of the nicest people that I am happy to have come across. You really encourage everyone around you, and like I just hope that you are able to take some time for yourself through this motherhood journey too, because you put so much into everybody, and it's paying off. Like the giving forward that you're doing, those people are now giving forward to other people as well, and it's amazing to see the ripple effect that you and just your positivity has on people. So thank you.
Yay! See, that makes me happy. I'm just glad that you really got into it. I love what you write. I love all your stuff, and I know it can be really difficult getting down on yourself, but I want to make sure that I encourage you, and I'm always in your corner, because even like your writing will still be there 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you know, like people are going to be able to find this stuff. And there's moms every single day. There's babies being born every single day. And there's new moms right now who just had a baby yesterday and she's going home like, what am I going to do? What am I doing with this thing?
Well, and I'm even like, shoot, that writing's going to be there for me for the next one, because I already forgot stuff. Like, and that's where I wish I would have started sooner, because my best friend just had a baby, and it's the best, like seeing a little newborn again. And I'm just like, first of all, my baby was never that small. My baby came out 9 pounds, 4 ounces. And this is like,
she was ready to walk when she came out. She came out and said, I will name you. I'm the boss of this.
Exactly, boss baby for sure. But yeah, it's cool seeing her go through this time right now. And I love that, we're able to like lean on each other now in motherhood as well. And she's reaching out to me about certain things. And I'm like, whoa, I forgot about that. Just like different little tips and tricks and things that I'm like, okay, next go around, I'm writing this all down. Whether anybody wants to read it or not, I'm getting it out there because I need to refer to it later because you just forget. And the stages, there's a lot. And now we're in the toddlerhood stage.
That's the weird thing. I went from like baby to now it's like, oh, now it's toddler. Like now what's the toddler world, and all these other toddler moms.
Yeah, and there's a whole world of need out there too because toddlers are handfuls, and it's knowing how to get their points across without words yet, and there's a lot. So it's cool being in this stage and seeing the market of people that are also in this stage wanting advice and help and just to lean on each other. And like, I'm like, hey, do you have any tips and tricks? Because I don't know what she's screaming about right now, but she's just screaming. Like, what's going on, and the nap transitions and all the.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the important thing to recognize now is that like the way you talk about, oh yeah, I wish you would have started earlier. Like that's the important thing of keep writing now because you don't want to look back a year from now. I'm like, oh, why didn't I stick with it? Like, you got to keep going, keep writing, because all those things are going to not only help you, but help so many others. And when you have your second, write weekly, if not, because the changes are so fast.
It does. One of the reasons I was hesitant to do any of this and put energy into, like, this whole idea of fostering mama bears and just, kind of getting things out there to help others is I was like, I don't want to take away from my family and my time that I need to be putting into my daughter too. And so it helps me a lot with that too, of like how you schedule it and how you're like, no, your phone is away whenever she's up and you're doing what you are here to do of mothering. And then you have the 30 minutes while she's napping and you are able to jump back on. So like finding that balance right now for me is really important because I'm not interested in like sacrificing too much time with my girl. Like you're talking about,
it's not worth it. Yeah.
Battle online is your baby being taken care of right there too. So.
Exactly. No, I think it's important to separate it. And if you come to a place, where you're getting paid for it, whether that's important or not, but then you start treating it as a job where it's like, okay, I can go to work and do my work while she's asleep, but when she's awake, my job is being a mom and being there and being present, and it's just kind of separating those and making sure you separate the time.
Yeah.
Because I never trade off the time.
That's so good. That's so awesome to see too, because you're very efficient with getting your stuff done too, because you're able to be 100% mom when it's like you're an actress. You're like lights on, stage on,
yeah.
Here I come. I am ready. And then it's like, all right, now I'm Lily B. Coco and I need to like podcast and, get all the stuff out. So it's really, you do a great job at that, man. Very admirable.
Thanks, girly. I try. I freaking try. But again, as we started this conversation, I need to remember to take that time for myself too. Yes. So that I'm not only mom and Lily B. Coco, but also just, I don't know, I guess just Lily.
Lily. Whatever that may be, man.
Yeah, I want to go to a coffee shop and eat a croissant. I want to eat like a dozen of donuts and just be fat. I want to eat it in a bathtub full of bubbles. It's silly. I stopped drinking like 3, 4, maybe even 5 years ago now. And I feel like that used to be my kind of easy go-to where it's like, well, if I have wine, then I'm relaxing. Or if I have a beer, I'm relaxing and kind of, putting that mindset on it. So I think sometimes I'm just like, well, if I had a glass of wine, maybe I'd feel better. And then I'm like, that's not the solution. My solution needs to be to relax and not to put.
Relaxation.
Yeah. So.
Do it now, ma'am, because I know as we get into the next stage of our motherhood of possibly having 2 or 3 or whatever it may be, like we're going to be looking back at this and being like, gosh, look at how much time we really did have. So.
You know what I was thinking about? Really quick, and we got to wrap up, but that's how I feel about the baby stage that we just were talking about, because I remember during the baby stage, I was like, I have no time to do anything. I'm, always with the baby. I'm entertaining her, when she kind of naps, but then I'm like, and then now I look at it, I'm like, I had so much time with the baby.
was there, and I could literally attach her to me and like go do things.
Yeah, I could have done so much more. And then during the naps, you know, it's like the even an hour, so much time while they're napping. It's like they nap 3, 4, 5 times. That's 5 hours. I could have done so much.
And now she's like running away, and you're like, wait, like.
Oops. Yeah, and now you're just like, don't put this in your mouth. Don't do that. Don't drop this. That's hot. That's cold. Don't drop. You know, it's just.
I love this stage, and I know we've talked about this before. Like, you see the little baby that they were, and you're like, oh, I miss my baby. But then it's also like, no, this is fun. Like, I love this stage, and I feel like it's always a bittersweet thing, but it's like it only gets better as they get more, because then they're gonna be like telling us full sentences and
can't wait.
Like, tell me about your day. Let's just talk. You're my favorite person ever. I love it.
Oh, and like bake cookies and eat them.
Oh,
I'm so excited. Last year I was trying to get into the garden while she napped, and so it was like a little at a time and getting our garden going. And this year she's going to be able to like be outside with me because she's not just like a roly-poly. And so like to have her in the garden with me.
We planted some herbs the other day, and it was a mess, girl. Like, I was like, yay, like, let's put that. And she knows how to, like, pour. She's working on pouring and stuff, so I was like, cool, we got this. No, it was, like, shovel, soil, and then, like, phew, behind her head.
Yay!
Okay, we're good. And so I'm like, here's your cup of fun soil and shovel. You get at it, girl. I will do the herbs right now. But it was still, like, a fun moment together, you know? And just slowing down and realizing, like, I think sometimes talking about those tantrums that, like, you know, understanding that babies are just wanting to be a part of your stuff, and they're just trying to understand things, and they can't talk to you like we can talk, and there's a reason. So like just slowing down and going, you know what, it's okay that you're making a mess. It's okay that my gardening experience did not go how I thought it would go. Like it was still fun, and we're making memories, and we're spending time together, and that's what's important, you know?
Yeah.
I'm loving it. I'm loving all this stage, and it's fun stuff.
Good. It was so good to talk to you. I have to cut it short. Well, not even short, but I have to go to get to my sweet girl, and you probably have to get to yours. But what a good conversation. I always love talking to you, dude. I feel we constantly talk on, well, not constantly, but we try to talk on Marco Polo, and those responses take like a week because then we get busy with other stuff.
Literally, we should download this app called Marco Polo. Just like talk, and I'm always driving. Like, I just put it on my dashboard, and I'm like, blah, 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 and I'm like, oh, I'm 20 minutes away from the house. I think I've been talking to myself the entire time.
You should start taking TikToks, because all TikToks done in a car do really well, because it looks like a spur of the moment. You just had this thought that you had to share, and so anytime you share anything from a car, usually does really well, and it's really approachable. Plus, I love all your in the car videos because it's just you talking to me, and so it's just like
angle. I realize I'm like, hello, Lily.
It's great, and then you're like lipstick and like mascara, and then you drop it, and then you get it. Like, you're an efficient driver.
Like 5 days later, you're like, did you ever finish putting mascara on that other eye? And I was like, I don't think I did. Like, what on earth? I just went and tutored with one eye.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how there it is.
Get busy, but you do it well.
Thanks.
All right, girly, I'm going to let you go. But again, I'd love to have you on, and then we're still in the talks about our own things. So
yes, got some great things brewing. You have fun. Give Paisley some hugs for me, and I will tell Ellington Bellington hi for you.
Thank you. Okay, bye, girl. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me and Miss Alisha, and I will see you next time on Mom Your Own Way. Bye.